Hello, gorgeous soul friends. Welcome to my channel, Madame DeVaux. Thank you so much for tuning in and for allowing me into your wondrous experience today. So this is going to be the third video in a four-part series titled The Energy Body, where in each video we're going to be discussing different components of the energy body and how to maintain them. This video in particular is going to be about life force energy, which is also known as prana or chi, and why having an awareness of your life force is a major contributor to a long, healthy life. So let's talk a little bit about the word prana itself, because I think out of all the labels, this is the one that's most often used. It's derived from the Sanskrit word pra, meaning forth, and an, meaning breath. So prana translates to what is breathed forth, but it's not the breath itself. It's the essence that lies within the breath. It's something that's carried by the breath. So even though they're not the same thing, they are directly linked to one another. This is why one of the determining factors of death is someone not breathing, because if there's no breath, there's no life force. This is also why states of consciousness can be altered by changing patterns within the breath. And this is what yoga and meditation are working to achieve, and why they're commonly referred to as the two practices of the gods. Not necessarily referring to any external god, but more so the activities that carry the god force throughout different energy centers in the body. All life contains prana that can be emitted and absorbed through various methods. And I discussed this a little more in my auras video. When you come into contact with someone who is draining to be around, they're absorbing your prana, whether they're aware of it or not. Prana is the energy that's exchanged between people during social interaction, especially intimate interactions. So sex is still a topic that's pretty taboo, even in the spiritual community. You have these two polarized opinions on it, where, one is related to centuries of conditioning that has kind of created this affiliation with anything sex related as being dirty or impure. And this is because sex is one of the defining aspects of our animal form. It's our method of physical procreation. But sex isn't just this raw animalistic act. It's arguably one of the most spiritually connected activities you can partake in. But the negative conditioning and suppression of sex has kind of caused the pendulum to swing in the other direction, where now it's in this other extreme where people kind of treat sex like it's just a quick smoke. And there's this spiritual irresponsibility due to a lack of awareness of the sacred nature of sex. Many people treat sexual energy like it's expendable. Because they don't even know that it's there. They don't even know that they have it. And this is kind of the societal manifestation of a controlling parental relationship. Like when someone moves out of their controlling parents' house and finally has the ability to explore all of these things that were once suppressed, there's a high likelihood that they're not going to explore these things in a safe and conscious manner. And that's why sex addiction is such a major thing, because the pleasure experienced at the point of orgasm is literally a snapshot of the God state. And this God state of being can be achieved in other ways, but a lot of people are disconnected from the tools that can help them achieve access to it. So the orgasm is kind of the quickest and easiest way. And this momentary integration of spirit matter is why many spiritualists talk about manifesting with the orgasm. It is literally the brain's perception of what being God feels like for a moment. That ecstasy, that bliss. So the word orgasm itself can even be broken down into the prefix or and suffix gasm, which or is derived from the word organ, which is just another word for prana, and gasm meaning explosion. So orgasm literally means an explosion of orgone energy. This is the same energy that the popular orgonite pyramids are working to protect from harmful frequencies produced by synthetic tech. Even the etymology of the word pyramid, you have pyra, which relates to the Greek word pyro for fire, and prana is often referred to as the inner fire, and mid refers to being in the middle. So the pyramids are essentially transmitters of orgone energy. And this is why they kind of have a phallic structure and they come to a point. The ancient Egyptians laid their royalty to rest in these pyramid tombs because they almost worked as a catalyst to project prana up and out of the earth matrix. So this is kind of what the journey through the afterlife allegory is referring to in their Book of the Dead. It was like a preparation process for your consciousness form to successfully make this exit, rather than being cycled back into the reincarnation system. Orgone energy is literally the most powerful energy in the known universe, and when mainstream science better understands it and is able to harness it, it will create a technological revolution that equates to or even surpasses the discovery of the internet. So to put it frankly, you have the single solution to the energy crisis flowing throughout your being right now as you're watching this video. I'd say the solar power industry is probably the closest pioneer for this kind of tech, because solar power is literally orgone energy from the sun. But we emit a similar energy from our own being, and that's why the Egyptians and the Romans worship the sun, because it's a provider of this energy. It's a provider of this prana so that life can even be possible. And that's why it's often referred to as the father. You know, you hear people referring to the sun as this masculine force, and it's because it is what produces the energy to be received by the feminine earth so that she can harbor life. The sun does emit a different kind of prana than we do, though. You could kind of visualize it like different dialects in the same language. Like they're both prana, human prana and solar prana, but since our sun has a different molecular structure, it's going to emit a different energy. It's still prana nonetheless, and we absorb this prana in our bodies. I mean, that's what vitamin D absorption is. It's the physical manifestation of the absorption of that prana. Human prana is already being harnessed on an organic level, though, inside your body and inside the body of others. You could kind of equate the transfer of orgone energy to Bluetooth connection. And I talk a little more about this in my auras video. The energy that we're emitting through our aura, the prana that's being emitted through our aura, can be picked up and detected by other people, especially people who are highly sensitive to the other side and to the energy realms. We're basically an organic version of our devices, and that's why engineers are even able to create these devices to begin with, because they're just replicating processes that are already present within our bodies. We are technology. But instead of wires and batteries, we have organs. And instead of electricity, we have prana. As above, so below. So our prana is what is exchanged during all encounters. And with intimate encounters, there is a more direct exchange. And by intimate, I'm kind of blanketing all encounters that require a level of vulnerability and bodily contact, especially skin-to-skin contact. The more vulnerable the intimate encounter, the more prana that is exchanged. So life force itself is creative. It's a creative force. It creates life, and it creates bonds. So sexual energy is something that many times is unknowingly exchanged between two partners. Kind of like when you plug an iPhone into a MacBook, all of that iPhone's data can be backed up and taken on by the computer. When one person has sexual relations with another, their energies are transferred into one another. Now, if both partners are coming from a place of positivity, love, consent, healing, and acceptance, then these types of vibrations are exchanged and both parties can heal and develop a deeper bond. And this is kind of touching on Tantra and, you know, sex magic and sex healing. Sex can be a very powerful spiritual tool, especially when both parties are fully conscious and mutually invested, not just in the sexual, but emotional exchange that's happening. Because even if there aren't emotions present for that person, there's still an emotional exchange that happens during sex. If there's any lingering energies of fear, trauma, or pain, this will also be exchanged, and one or both partners will often be left feeling depleted. And this is often the case with one-sided relationships, where one person is super emotionally invested while the other is kind of just in it for the quick bang. Because the lack of emotional investment is coming from a trauma. So that trauma is exchanged during the sexual interaction. And this is kind of where the idea of taking on someone's karma comes from. You know, you often hear spiritualists talking about taking on somebody's karma when you have sex with them, because frequencies that resonate with certain traumatic experiences can be exchanged between partners. And, you know, the person on the receiving end may end up manifesting a similar scenario in their own life because they take on these frequencies. So what happens when somebody experiences trauma, those particular emotions related with that experience, they impress upon the subconscious and they create certain frequencies within the auric field. If they don't work through this trauma and they hold on to it, it kind of just becomes this stagnant energy that's present within their energy field. and that energy can be exchanged. Let's kind of dive into the Ankh for a second, because the Ankh ties directly into orgone energy, life force energy, whatever you want to call it. It's all just labels at the end of the day for the same thing. But the Ankh is a famous symbol that's often depicted in Egyptian hieroglyphs. And the tool looks very similar to a Christian cross. I actually have it tattooed here on my arm. And I would say it's kind of becoming popularized in the mainstream through the hip hop community. You know, you often see rappers with tattoos of Ankhs, or like they'll usually have like necklaces of Ankhs and stuff like that. The modern day cross was actually inspired by the Egyptian Ankh. And I mean, a lot of other things were as well, like a lot of other aspects of Christianity were directly pulled out of Egyptian mysticism, as well as paganism too. There's a lot of parallels between the three. I think Christianity kind of pick and chose what it wanted to take out of both, and then it went back and refuted them. So there is a lot of parallels. Like if you look at Christianity and you look at, you know, Egyptian mythos, symbolism, all of that stuff, very, very similar. Christianity was essentially born out of Egyptian mysticism. So whenever you hear people talk about the Ankh, like if you Google search the meaning of the Ankh, it's going to tell you that it means life. So that's like the traditional association with the term. It usually means everlasting life, eternal life, or just life in general. And it was one of the many tools used by the ancient Egyptians to achieve heightened states of consciousness. However, this tool wasn't exactly a physical one. It's more of a spiritual tool, like a technique, you could say. The Egyptians referred to the orgasm as the mini-death, and this is because in an unconscious person, life force is expelled through the crown. And the Egyptians are often credited as being the ones to discover the Ankhing method, but they were really just re-accessing an ancient pathway of energy that was already present. It just wasn't being utilized. Once again, our bodies are tech, and the Ankhing method, the Ankhing pathway is just ancient tech. It's just an ancient technological process that our body already knows how to do. It just wasn't being used for a very long time, and it still widely is not used. But it's becoming increasingly discovered as people are diving into these concepts of esoterica. But the Ankh itself is connected to the feminine reproductive organs. If you take a look at an Ankh, it's literally a symbol for the feminine reproductive organs. You have the birth canal, you have the uterus, and you have the ovaries. And there's a reason that the Ankh, something that is affiliated with life, is connected to the reproductive organs, because the reproductive organs are what creates life, right? It's the physical manifestation of the sacral chakra. And I talk more about this in my chakra video. The sacral chakra governs the reproductive organs because it's your creative center. As I mentioned earlier, everything energetic has its own physical component. So the sacral chakra is literally your reproductive organs. And the reason it's the female reproductive organs in particular is because women are directly connected to spirit. Like the feminine energy is directly connected to spirit. And that's not to say that men can't be spiritual, because that's obviously, like, there's plenty of really great male intuitives out there. But the feminine energy archetypally is associated with God. It's directly connected to God. And this is often why in the twin flame community you hear about the divine feminine being the one to awaken the masculine, because it's this balanced process of the feminine bringing the masculine closer to God, and the masculine grounding the feminine. It's not necessarily to say that the feminine is bringing the masculine closer to an external God. The feminine is just helping the masculine access the God within. That's also why women are usually more connected to their intuition as well. And I'm saying this on a general basis, guys. Like, I understand that there are exceptions to the rule, right? So don't be bitching at me in my comments, please, because I don't want to deal with it. Like I said, there's plenty of intuitive men out there. And there's plenty of men out there who are very connected to their feminine energy, and they can integrate those higher energies. But archetypally, the feminine is more connected to spirit. And that is why the Ankh, a symbol that is affiliated with life and creation, is associated with the feminine reproductive organs. So normally the point of orgasm sends energy up from the root chakra directly out of the crown chakra in a straight line out of the body. The biggest problem with this normal course of energy is that all of that spirit matter, all of that enlightening momentum is completely lost after the point of impact. It's almost dispelled into the environment around you, kind of like a geyser. You could visualize it like a geyser. It's traveling up and then boom, it just expels. And Oftentimes, it even gets absorbed by the other person. And this is where parasitic relationships come into the picture. You often hear people saying, oh, well, they're toxic, they're psycho, they're crazy, but the peen is good. You know what I mean? Or you just hear people staying with others for the sex, right? Even though they may be crazy or whatever. And this is why, because that person is absorbing their energy and kind of keeping them locked in. So if your energy is not completely dispelled into the environment around you, it will be absorbed by your partner, especially if you're already in a parasitic relationship. What's left is just kind of these physical residual chemicals like, dopamine and serotonin and all of that, the ones that induce this incredible sense of relaxation. But the Egyptians believed that you were literally losing a bit of your life force every time you had an orgasm. That's why they called it the mini death. So this technique aims to redirect the flow of energy from the root chakra to the heart, and back out of the heart chakra through the crown and back into the heart once again. It reconnects the energy in this infinite loop. And this can all be accomplished through conscious breath work and visualization. That's really all it requires, is just practice, really. Just being able to consciously work with your orgasm, and instead of just kind of being taken away with the ecstasy, consciously controlling yourself and controlling your breath. You can consciously direct the flow of energy with your breath. And you can feel it on a physical level too once you get really good at it, but it just takes conscious practice. So prana is essentially what Star Wars is talking about with its reference to the Force. And these films, especially the ones that are kind of timeless masterpieces like Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, they're encapsulating esoteric concepts and presenting them in a way that bypasses the conscious mind and resonates directly with the soul. So it's kind of like our own modern day mythology. And that's why these films are so successful, because it manifests as an appreciation for a good plot or character development, or even being impressed with the CGI. But underneath all of that, there are foundational truths that the soul understands, even if the conscious mind does not. I kind of want to make a video going more in depth on different movies and like the esoteric truths and the occult truths that you can pull from these movies and the lessons you can kind of learn. Like in The Matrix, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, a lot of Pixar films have great occult references. That are kind of just sitting in plain sight. Like if you don't know they're there, you're not going to pick up on them. So I would love to break those down for you guys and help you understand like the lessons that can be taken from these films, because they are masterpieces for a reason. It's not just artistic genius. There's lessons that can be applied to your own personalized path to help you achieve your own state of godhood, whatever that may be to you. But that is the conclusion of this vlog. I hope this video was able to provide some sort of clarity and help you understand yourself and the world around you a little bit better. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday. Take care. Bye-bye.